Hello and welcome back to the Fourth and School podcast. Today we're going to talk about the 2020 NFL Draft, jump ahead a little bit to next year. I know it's a little early. A lot of guys don't want to jump in just yet, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the people. I want to get a look ahead. Don't look back at the past, but jump ahead to that future. See what we've got. Don't look back at the past, but jump ahead to that future. See what we've got cooking next year and maybe even beyond. You know, not all these guys that I'm going to preview today are actually going to declare. Some guys are going to go back. We saw that last year. You know, Justin Herbert was arguably the best quarterback in the country, and he decided to go back to school for another year. So a watch list, what to expect this year, not necessarily a rundown of who I think is going to be in the draft or anything like that. It's just my guys I want to look at. Maybe I'll dive in a little bit to what they present and what to expect from them as players, as prospects. And yeah, we'll just kind of leave gone. We can't do anything about that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in to next year's draft class. I'll give you a rundown of each position, give you my favorite positional groups, the top 5 to 10 at each spot, depending on if the group I like. So I'm going to go a little bit further with that list, but I'll give you the rundown of each position, top 5, top 6 as of now. Obviously that's very flexible. It's going to change as we progress throughout the draft process, throughout the college football season. Unfortunately, and injuries are going to happen, stuff like that's going to pop up. But yeah, we'll jump right in. Quarterbacks. My number one quarterback heading into the season will still be Justin Herbert out of Oregon. He returned for his senior season. Most of that hype, or a lot of the expectations, I guess, are that he went back to spend 1 year with his brother, who's an incoming freshman. I believe he plays tight end. Spend 1 year with his brother, who's an incoming freshman. I believe he plays tight end. So he wanted to kind of get that rapport with his little brother, have a little final lap around Oregon, and really cement his name as the top quarterback in the country. And I can respect what he's doing because he's coming in, instead of coming out last year with maybe a weaker class. There were good guys, Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, very good quarterbacks in their own right, but Herbert pushed himself back, and now he's going into a draft with a lot of big names that I'll get to here shortly. So I can respect that he's here shortly. So I can respect that he's a big guy, 6'6", strong arm, makes a lot of good plays. Hasn't really won a lot of the big games that I looked forward to seeing last year, but I mean, he's going to translate to the NFL. He's very mobile, very athletic. Like I said, good arm, good frame. Hold that number one spot. Obviously, it can change, but I like what I see out of him, and I do expect him to be the number one quarterback off the board, if not the number one player overall. So number 2, as of now, I've got Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback from Alabama. What we'll see here is that he's not quite the same build as these other guys. He's only 6 foot. A lot of the guys coming out next year are much taller. There's a lot of guys that are 6'4", 6'5". But Tua is a guy that he wins ball games. He's got a strong arm, good body, good frame, very stout passer. He does throw left-handed, so that's probably going to turn some teams off. Kind of shy away from it, especially we haven't seen really a successful left-handed quarterback in quite some time. I'm probably forgetting somebody off the top of my head, but last person I can really think of is Michael Vick. So he's got a kind of an uphill battle. But he's been stellar in his 2 years at Alabama. He's going into his junior season, so there is still room for him to return if he wants to. He's a true junior. His only real experience as a freshman came national championship, as we all know that story. Quarterback at Georgia right now. He's only 6'2", but still pretty good size, accurate quarterback. I mean, he came in right away at Georgia and made them a powerhouse. They've been one of the best teams in the country now for 2 years, and he's a big reason why. Great kid, great athlete, and he's a big reason why. Great kid, great athlete. Maybe not the best traits, I guess, out of some of the other guys that we'll see, especially this year and then moving on into 2021, which there's a dandy over there that we all know in Trevor Lawrence, but that's for another time. That we all know in Trevor Lawrence, but that's for another time. But yeah, I really like Jake Fromm. Maybe I'm not as high on him as a lot of other guys are at this point, but I mean, his ceiling's through the roof, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does end up as if he remains in the top three, if not as the number one quarterback. Or as a guy that Jake Fromm actually beat out at Georgia, it's Jacob Eason, transferred over to Washington, sat out last year due to the pretty, just dumb NCAA rule that if you transfer you have to sit out. I don't agree with it, but I won't get into that right now. Since another guy, 6'6", good arm. He's one of the top prospects in the country when he came out, committed to Georgia, and then unfortunately lost his spot to Jake Fromm and Justin Fields, who came in. So he decided to leave and go for a chance to actually play. He sat behind Jake Browning this last year, and now he's taken over. And he's going to have a good defense behind him, so they're going to win games. Washington's known for just cranking out defensive talent like it's nothing. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Number 5 for me, is good athlete, really good athlete. Pretty strong arm, makes plays with his feet. And he's only in my top 5 because I want to see more of him. I'm not really expecting him to be necessarily like the best quarterback in the country or anything like that. But I've seen his name floating around there as a guy to watch. I think I watched Dax Raymond, his tight end, and also Darwin Thompson, I believe, was his running back. And I didn't really like what I saw from him. I saw a lot of mental mistakes and errors like that, but I do think teams are going to like him just for his athleticism, and he's got good size to be that good of an athlete. So he'll be a guy to watch. And then the last guy is Felipe Franks. I've seen a lot of people that actually like him. He's 6'6", so again, continuing that theme of big-bodied, strong-armed quarterbacks. It's just I don't see it in his game. I think he's been very average at the college level. He's playing in the SEC, so that's probably going to account for a lot of the errors, or a lot of the struggles. So we'll see how he does. I think he's going to be more of a guy that you're going to look at for trades rather than production. So I think the NFL is going to like his game quite a bit. Moving on to running backs, this is a great group of running backs, especially at the top. I think you have a handful of guys that can go round one. That's not going to be the case because just the way the NFL values running backs, you don't really see a lot of top-end guys stay with a certain team for more than 5 years. You run them until they can't run any longer. Then you move on to get some fresh legs. You don't want to have a 28, 29-year-old running back if there's another guy that can produce at the same rate. So anyway, number 1 is Travis Etienne out of Clemson. Excellent speed in the open field. He's a big play type of guy. A little small, but he's got enough size, and I think he's got great athleticism to if he's got the body to withstand hits and stuff like that. So number 2, which is a very close call, is Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. He was a guy getting Heisman hype as a freshman, and there's going to be questions of, well, was it him or was it his offensive line? We go through this every few years when we talk about Wisconsin's running backs. So we've seen success from him. We've also seen a lot of strong. Melvin Gordon, who came in and who has had a great career to this point, but then you see guys like Monty Ball where they just don't pan out. So it's one of those reasons it's important to look at the player, not the helmet. But yeah, I like Taylor. I think he's a guy that he's going to have a lot of hype. And I expect him to do continue running probably 2,000, 2,500 yards in that range this year. So great kid. I think he's going to be fighting for that number 1 running back spot. Number 3, Cam Akers. He's just been a kid highly touted out of high school. Went to Florida State. Big body, powerful runner, fun to watch. Florida State hasn't had a lot of success, so his name kind of gets lost. But He's got the body to be an NFL running back. Number 4, A.J. Dillon, Boston College. You don't really see a lot of Boston College guys, especially on offense, make it to the NFL, but Dillon's got a really good frame, really stout runner, big legs, big thighs. As Adam Lefkoe would say, and Chris Sims, I guess, big thighs, big ass kind of guy. It's what you want to look for. Big thighs, big ass kind of guy. It's what you want to look for in a running back. So I think I don't want to compare him to Saquon Barkley, but that's the type of runner that he is, the type of build that he has. So it's obviously a stretch to compare him to the best running back I've ever seen at the college level, but I mean, that's it. And then number 5 is going to be DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. Very shifty runner with great vision, quick feet, good in space. We've seen Georgia produce a ton of good running backs the last few years. Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb, and Elijah Holyfield. This last year. So he'll just continue to add to that pool in the NFL of just good Georgia running backs. Todd Gurley not even too long ago. So I think Swift is a guy that you'll want to keep an eye on. He's going to have a lot of big plays. He's going to be a part of an explosive offense. Moving on to wide receiver, this is my favorite positional group in the whole class, and it's obvious as to why. There's just talent all over the place. You've got a bunch of different types of receivers, different types of weapons. The number 1, and this is by a long shot, despite this being a loaded class, Jerry Jeudy just can't be stopped. He's got good size. From different things I've heard and read around, he's expected to run in the low 4.3s, high 4.2s next year. So you're probably thinking, he's a little slot guy. No, he's a 6'1", almost 200-pound receiver with quick feet, one of the best route runners I've ever seen from in the college level or even in the NFL. So, great body, great frame, great runner. Then, that's a tough matchup, tough nightmare for defenses. And he's going to come in and he's going to steal the show at Alabama. He's going to put up points. He's going to get one-on-one looks, and he's going to just make play after play. He can beat you underneath. He can beat you over top. Number 2 is T. Higgins, the kid from Clemson. Great hands, a little skinny, but I think, he's playing with the best quarterback I've ever seen. The ability to win 50-50 balls, which is so important, especially if, you get to the NFL, you're going to have better coverage, and you're going to need to be able to come out and win and, compete with good defenders and make tough catches. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. This is explosive. You got Rodney Anderson, running, making big plays in the ground, but then they had Marquise Hollywood Brown as their number 1 weapon, and Kyler Murray, of course, was top pick selected in the 2019 draft. So I think CeeDee Lamb gets overlooked, but he's an acrobatic receiver, makes great catches, good speed. I think of Oklahoma receivers and the Oklahoma offense. I think of a guy like CeeDee Lamb, just stretching the field, making big plays. Number 4, Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. They're gonna share the ball. They're gonna move it around a lot, and I think Ruggs is a guy that he produces at a high level. NFL's gonna see that, and they're gonna expect him to come in right away and just continue to build on what he did with the Crimson Tide. Number 5, this is a good story. Laviska Shenault, a wide receiver in Oklahoma. You don't really see a talent come out of Oklahoma either, but he's got an interesting story. It's unfortunate, especially the circumstances. If you want to see that, I would highly advise you go check it out. He lost his father in an unexpected accident, and he kind of put it on himself to compete and help his family out. He wanted to play in his honor, and he's come out. It's like 6'2", 215 pounds, but he's got insane burst, great speed, big play threat, fun to watch. I think he's going to have a lot of hype coming into the season, and rightfully so. He's got a good quarterback with him. I think Colorado's a team to quarterback with him. I think Colorado's a team to watch in the Pac-12. Pac-12 After Dark family. Where we're at. You don't really watch a lot of guys East Coast don't watch a lot of the Pac-12 just because of timing and stuff like that. But if you're going to watch this year, you definitely want to get a hold of some Colorado games. Oklahoma State, big body receiver, great in the clutch. I watched a few Oklahoma State games last year where he just stole the show late. A lot of good. He's a good red zone threat, big play threat. Fun to watch. You know, they had a lot of weapons on that offense, but he was one of the guys that I was surprised to see that he wasn't even out of the guys that I was surprised to see that he wasn't even eligible last year because he was only a sophomore. So I expect big things from him this year. Number 7, a guy that went back to school this year is Colin Johnson. He was my favorite wide receiver last year, just from a perspective of he's a huge guy, great almost. Doesn't have a lot of speed, which is what you would expect, but he can win jump balls. He's got the size. I mean, there's not going to be any corners in the NFL that can match his size. So he can definitely be a red zone threat, a vertical threat of just get him the ball. You can even line him up in the slot and just eat up the middle. Number 8, Donovan Peoples-Jones at Michigan. Another guy, great athlete, good speed, elusive runner. He did a lot of returning and stuff for Michigan, so he's a guy you want to get the ball in his hands. He's just kind of a gadget guy that can actually play receiver. You don't see that a whole lot. I think the only guy we really see that's that versatile is probably Tyreek Hill, but we know that situation. Number 9, Tyler Johnson at Minnesota. He's a senior. I think he's a guy that we're going to see at the Senior Bowl, and he's going to have a lot of hype going in to this season and then throughout the year. But then once he gets to the Senior Bowl, I think he's going to make his fight to get into the first round. He's just that talented. Good body. I'm not actually quite sure of his height. I'll look that up. But he does have good feet. Very good route runner. And he can, I've seen a few clips of him just in the red zone, just, as a slot guy, he can, shimmy a guy out of the way, and he gets open. He's got good hands, so hopefully we can see him with more hype around him. I do like his quarterback, Alex Anixted at Minnesota, so I just looked it up. He is 6'2", so that's good size. That's good NFL receiver size. So we'll see how that translates. I think he's a guy that can play pretty much anywhere as a receiver. And finally, rounding it out, this is another guy. This isn't really a guy that I don't know for sure if he's going to be in my top 10. But Juwan Johnson at Oregon, he spent the last few years at Penn State. And then he did a grad transfer, went to Oregon. He's immediately there. He's going to be playing with Justin Herbert. Huge guy. He's like 6'5" or so. Not a lot of speed, but he's got good hands. He's got a big body and a big target to hit. So I want to see how he progresses in an offense where he might be more utilized because at Penn State they don't really. I'm not going to say that they couldn't throw the ball, but they were definitely more focused on the short game and getting the ball underneath. A lot of handoffs. They had Miles Sanders this year, and they had Saquon Barkley the year before that. So they didn't really need to use Tyler Johnson, but now he's going to go to Juwan Johnson, excuse me. So now they're going to go to the Pac-12 and be in an offense that likes to throw the ball. So hopefully he can improve his game and show that he's an actual receiver and a good threat on the outside. Moving to the offensive line, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to keep this brief. I don't like watching offensive linemen. Important, don't get me wrong. I think it's the most important position, or the most important position group in the NFL besides the quarterback. So you need good talent there. But I'll just run off my top 5. Number 1 is Andrew Thomas, the left tackle at Georgia, big-bodied guy. Strong pass blocker. Number 2, Walker Little, offensive tackle at Stanford. Number 3 is Tyler Biadasz. I think I said that right. Don't even quote me on it. I don't know how Wisconsin gets these guys. I don't know where they come from, but they run the ball well. He's the anchor of the offensive line, so you expect big things from Wisconsin offensive linemen. Number 4 is Washington's left tackle Trey Adams. He was a borderline top 50 guy last year, but he just had so many injuries. He wanted to go back and prove that in the traits to succeed. And then number 5, Tommy Kramer, the offensive guard at Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been cranking out a lot of good offensive linemen in the past few years, so he's going to have those expectations, I guess, kind of on him. So we'll see how he translates if he decides to come out and stay dominant in the NFL. Moving on to the defense, we'll start with the defensive end in the edge group. Number 1, and arguably the number 1 player in the draft, is Chase Young at Ohio State. They've had so many good defensive linemen in the last few years. You might not even need 2 hands to count it. It's going to be close. They've got the Bosa brothers and Draymond Jones, and they know how to get talent from the defensive side of the ball. And Chase Young's a guy that he was probably the best player on the defense, with Nick Bosa being injured, of course. So he's coming back. He's going to have a chance to be the guy to show that he can carry a defense, and he gets to the quarterback so easily. He can blow up run plays. He's so fun to watch, and he just pops on film. He's going to continue to do so, I expect, this year. And we'll see if he would stay in the top 5. He's definitely going to be in my top 5 of my initial ranking. So I'm excited to watch him in 2019, heading into the 2020 draft. Number 2 is Clavon Chason, or Chason. I don't know what. Had another school known for just they produce talent. Not usually on the defensive line. We see a few guys. Danielle Hunter comes to mind, obviously, as a Vikings fan, but Chason came out last year, tore his ACL early in the year, so it was a huge blow. You hate to see an injury, but he's a guy that very athletic, not necessarily the biggest guy for an edge rusher, but I think he can kind of play that hybrid outside linebacker pass rusher role that we've kind of seen become more and more common in the NFL. Number 3, AJ Epinesa, another name going to struggle to figure out, but that's what I'm here for. He's at Iowa, big guy. He's like 6'6", probably 250. Big guy, but he's got enough speed and burst to get to the edge, so he's definitely a threat on the edge. Very strong. He's going to be hard to block, and his film, he's going to pop. He's going to make that defense what it is, and tough-nosed, strong defense. Don't really let a lot of big plays. So definitely keep an eye on him. And then the last 2 are both Alabama guys, Anthony Jennings and Terrell Lewis. Both came back after they probably both could have been day 2 selections. Nick Saban likes to keep his guys. He doesn't want them to leave too early. He wants them to come back and develop their game before they go on to the NFL. So they're going to be definitely worth keeping an eye on. Alabama they get to the quarterback. That's what they do. They get to the quarterback. That's what they do. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to get to the guy. They're going to probably force a lot of turnovers. They'll probably play in coverage. They're going to show that they're versatile. So, that's what Alabama does. They produce talent on the defensive line like it's nothing, and they move on to the next group of guys. And, which Alabama starting defensive ends are going to be drafted in the first round, which brings me to my next point: defensive line, defensive tackle, that interior part. Number 1, Raekwon Davis out of Alabama, big body guy. Should have came out last year, in my opinion. He had a round 2 grade. Big body guy. Should have came out last year, in my opinion. He had a round 2 grade from me. But he's going to come back, and he's probably going to prove me wrong, and he's going to be probably a top 10 pick. So that's good on him. Come out, prove that you're one of the best players in the country, get that extra experience, get your degree, and then come on out. Might be a better time for you. Come out, be that top 5, top 10 pick, and just continue to eat at the NFL level. Number 2 and 3 both come from Auburn, so shows they've got some talent on defense right off the bat. They can plug the middle. You've got Derek Brown and Nick Coe. Won this past draft if he would have declared, but he decided to go back and team back up with Co and come out and try to give Auburn a chance at the SEC title. It's going to be a tough task, of course, but they've got some pieces there. I do like both guys. I think they can both probably sneak into round one. It's going to be tough just because of the skill players that are available that we talked about on offense. There's so many guys that are deserving of first-round grades. Just from a standpoint of looking at it right now, you see guys and you're like, man, there's so many players that are deserving of going in the top 32, but there's only 32 picks, so you can only spread them. So much. Number 4 is Rashard Lawrence out of LSU. I watched a few of his games this past year. Good run stopper, big-bodied guy, good athlete, strong hands. I want to see how he kind of progresses, because LSU anymore. It used to be known for the interior defensive line. I think, you've got, I'm going to forget his name, Kyle Williams, the guy he played for the Bills for so long. He was one of those original LSU guys. So we'll see how that moves on. And then the last one, this is a guy I will be honest, I have not even heard of, but I see him a lot in initial rankings, is Ray Lima out of Iowa State. Given that I don't know much about him, I want to put him in my top 5 as my watch checked out of him, so I'll keep you guys updated on that situation. But yeah, not familiar with him, but I'm excited to jump in. Moving on to linebacker, again, we're going to have an Alabama guy at the top to start off the year. Dylan Moses, linebacker, number 32, for our tape to look at. If you're watching their defensive line or some of the other linebackers or the secondary, the first guy you see is always Dylan Moses. He flies to the ball. He's a former running back. Funny story, when he was coming out of, I think, middle school, he was in like 8th grade, heading into high school, and his comparison was the top high school recruit in the country at the time was Leonard Fournette, and they were comparing him to Fournette and saying, that's the type of runner he is. And then he gets to Alabama and he moves to linebacker, and he just continues to tear it up. Seemed natural to him. So I want to keep an eye on him, and definitely he's the best linebacker in the country in my opinion as of right now. Number 2, Isaiah Simmons. He's at Clemson. There's a video posted yesterday by Travis Etienne, his running back. His team raced in practice, and Etienne's a fast guy, and their their sprint came out to like a dead tie. So you see her off the bat. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a linebacker. He's not necessarily like built like the prototypical linebacker, but he's like 6'1", 6'2", and he can fly. Prototypical linebacker, but he's like 6'1", 6'2", and he can fly, and that's going to be versatile. I mean, you're going to need that as an off-ball linebacker in the NFL. You think of a guy like Anthony Barr. He's versatile, but he can also kind of play in the back end. He's a good coverage kind of guy. So definitely want to keep an eye on him. He was a guy that a lot of guys talked about last year as being a potential first-round pick if he wanted to come out. And he decided to stay in school. He was only a sophomore, so he wanted to develop. He's got to get bigger before he gets to the NFL. But tackling machine, I want to try to stay away from the stereotypical white linebacker type of terms, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he gets in there. He's a good tackler. He's captain of the defense. So I don't know if he's going to translate quite yet, but I do think he's going to have a lot of praise from the NFL. Number 4, Shaq Quarterman out of Miami. Miami kind of getting back to that. I'm not going to say the same level as they were, back with the early 2000s, but they've started cranking out some NFL talent, and we're starting to get more used to seeing Hurricanes in the NFL, which is always fun to see. Quarterman's a good middle linebacker, good hitter, so keep an eye on him. And then number 5 is Troy Dye out of Oregon. Kind of a slim guy, but he's pretty tall, pretty lanky, good coverage guy. He can get to the spot, very good tackler, and stuff like that. So, not necessarily the best linebacker group, I would say, but I think at the very top you have a lot of very good talent, and I'm excited to see how they translate, how they progress as the season. Defensive backs, you guys know I love defensive backs. It's my favorite thing to watch. Starting at corner, number 1, C.J. Henderson from Florida. Henderson's an impressive kid. He's 6'1", good coverage guy. He came in, he started from day one at an good coverage guy. He came in, he started from day one at an SEC defensive powerhouse. They've been cranking out NFL talent the last few years. A lot of safeties and corners have come out. You've got Tease Tabor for the Lions. Quincy Wilson, who plays for the Colts, was a second-round pick. Keanu Neal was I believe a first a few years ago. They know how to produce in the NFL. They know how to get guys from Florida into the NFL. So he's a guy that, it wouldn't surprise me if he's the first corner off the board. A video that's circulating right now is he against South Carolina last year. He ran down Deebo Samuel. They lined up. So Samuel was on one side of the line, and Henderson's guarding his guy on the other side of the field. They threw a slant. Samuel caught it and took off down the field. Wilson broke off of his guy and ran him down like 85 yards down the field. I think it was like a 92-yard completion, and he tackled him short of the end zone. He shows he's not afraid to tackle, but he's also going to give you his motor. He's going to go out there. He's going to fight. He's going to give everything he's got. So that's what you want in a corner. You want a guy that's feisty. You want a guy that is not afraid to hit, and you want a guy that loves Stephon Diggs. Vikings fans will know that's Stephon's brother. He's an Alabama kid. There was probably talk that he could have come out this year, but Alabama corners don't necessarily have the best success in the NFL. He went back, decided to kind of up his game and prove that he can play man, and he wants to, evolve as an overall defensive back. He's a good punt returner too. I've seen him kind of show his talent on special teams as well. So he's a guy definitely to keep an eye on. Number 3, AJ. So he's a guy definitely to keep an eye on. Number 3, AJ Terrell or Terrell, another name. Not really sure to say yet. It's not difficult. It's just pronunciation type thing with this one. But he's at Clemson right now. When I watched Trayvon Mullen, he in my opinion last year. I want to see that kind of continue. I want to see how he progresses and continues to just make a name for himself. He played over Mark Fields, who is one of the better defensive backs on Clemson's roster. But Terrell just came in right away and he made it his position, and he contributed to a national championship defense, which is always impressive. So to see that, you're going to have high expectations as you approach draft eligibility. Number 4, Lavert Hill, Michigan, plays for a good defense. He's got pretty good size. Good ball skills. He did play with a lot of good secondary talent at Michigan. So now that maybe if some guys are gone, I want to see how he can man that secondary by himself. And then number 5 is Bryce Hall out of Virginia. Hall, I thought could have come out this year. Would have been maybe a day 1 pick, most likely day 2. Good ball hawk. Gets to the spot, very, very sound corner. But he didn't play it really a powerhouse. He played for Virginia, whose football program's not. It's not horrible. It's just not elite by any means. So he's going back for his final year. He's going to prove that he is one of the top corners in the country. And moving on to safety, my favorite player in the draft, and Grant Delpit out of LSU. LSU is DBU, if you ask me. I'm sorry, Ohio State. I'm sorry, Alabama, and some of these other schools that think they're deserving. LSU has just continued to throw out guys that compete day 1 in the NFL. But LSU is just they produce leaders. And Jamal Adams came in right away. He's already a captain for the Jets in year 2. So Grant Delpit's a guy, he can play in the box, he can hit, he can play the run very well, good blitzer. He can hit, he can play the run very well, good blitzer, but he can also cover well. I think he's one of the few guys in the country with a handful of sacks and interceptions in the same season. He can lay the wood. He's a good hitter. He's got good size, and he's only a sophomore, and he was the best player on LSU's defense. And that's saying something, especially when that defense had Devin White and Greedy Williams last year, among others. So he's obviously a tough kid. He's going to be fun to watch. I think he's going to be a culture changer in the NFL. Number 2, Jordan Fuller out of Ohio State, believe it or not. Good ball hawk, good leader, captain for Ohio State. They've been producing a lot of talent. He's played over a lot of other really good players at Ohio State as a freshman and sophomore. So now that he's eligible, I want to see how he takes command of the defense, leads by example. He does produce a lot of turnovers, so Jordan Fuller is definitely a name to watch in the secondary. And then I've got 2 more that I've really seen enough of before. I don't really want to make any more claims about anybody else, but Stanford Samuels out of Florida State, very light, very slim kind of guy to play safety, but he has good ball skills. I could see him playing kind of that nickel, nickel role. He can play kind of coverage safety, really. I'm not sure if his body can withstand a lot of hits at the NFL level, but he does make good plays on the ball, good hands. So I could see him definitely as a day 2 kind of guy, a guy that can early in his NFL career. And then the other one is Richie Grant out of Central Florida. I've heard his name as one of the top safeties. I haven't seen it yet. I watched their game against Memphis a handful of times, trying to watch Darrell Henderson and Tony Pollard for Memphis, both of their running backs. And good size. He can definitely hit hard. He's got, good instincts. He just doesn't have the speed that you want at safety. He's just not going to be able to get to, if they throw a deep ball, he's not going to be able to necessarily cover. He's not going to have that type of range, but he does have good size, good length. So I think the film's going to be tough, especially with the conference. They play in. It's a lot of speed, not really a whole lot of, I don't know. I don't want to say there's not a lot of strategy to the offense or anything like that, but a lot of the offense revolves around getting the ball to your speedy guy, letting him make plays. So I think when you look at just the film, you're not going to see him make a lot of plays. But he's going to have the traits that NFL teams at least are going to say they can do something with, and they want to be like, I can mold this guy into a good defensive back. So wouldn't be surprised at all to see him get taken somewhat early. So 2020 draft is upon us. I'm gonna start getting into my film and stuff probably next week once I get a little bit more time. I've seen a lot of these guys already just preparing for last year's draft or for watching their teammates and seeing them on the screen. So we'll see what happens we'll see what happens with that. And once again, this isn't a stable list. Things are going to change for sure. The wide receivers are definitely the best group of the class. It's one of the, this is going to be a way and just dominate the NFL. So I can't wait for that. And I'll keep you guys posted. I'll try to get back into a better routine of this. I finally got through my final semester and got a little bit more time on my hands for now. So that said, that'll kind of wrap up and work on the next one, start getting into some film and be all in on the 2020 draft. Thanks for listening.